movies. Oh, yes, party peoples. Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Thank you so much for coming back for some more popcorn and another episode of BrassReel Tonight. Took me a little second to get going here. As always, Mondays. Got a case of the Mondays, right? Always running behind. But definitely glad to be here with you guys. Thank y'all for joining me so much. I appreciate it. Real quick, before I get started, just want to let y'all know I was a little late on it just because I had so much going on. But I was able to put my Don't Breathe 2 review out. So go to my channel and check that out after this. It's you'll just, I'm sure you can tell by that thumbnail right there. My thoughts on it just kind of were a little So anyways, check that out. And also, if you guys ever can't make it into the show and you want me to talk about something, don't ever forget you can send me something on brassreelbobby@gmail.com. And that, you know, if you can't tune in live, like I said, I got like 4 people tuning in. But if you can tune in live, you can always send in comments straight to the show, and I'll answer whatever you guys want to do. So anyways, hope y'all had a good weekend. Everything's rolling over here, just like I said, getting going. Got some stuff to talk to you about in the news today. Not a lot. Honestly, not a crazy amount. But first off, let's just get to it. Scarlett Johansson, it's progressing. It's all progressing, and not necessarily in a good way. The Disney seeks to force Scarlett Johansson's suit to arbitration, meaning that it's all going to be like in sort of like private hands now to decide if they feel like them releasing it on Disney Plus had anything to do with her not getting the money she thought she deserved. I understand that Disney's making that choice of trying to experiment with stuff, but when you have a contract, and especially when it was her first movie and sort of her last stint in the MCU, I don't know. My side, I'm still with her, and we all know what I've said in the past about Bob Chapek. He's just not doing a good job with his staff. He's not keeping relationships good. So, you know, I hope they get this thing figured out somehow or another to where it doesn't end on bad blood with ScarJo. You know, I would hate for her to have this awesome run with the Avengers and Disney and do all this stuff. Remember, she did like the Jungle Book and stuff like that. And she's had other things involved with Disney. And if it just ended on that type of bad blood, that'd just be unfortunate, you know? Yep. Esmaniac says, fulfill her contract. She's a valuable asset. What's up, buddy? How you doing? She is a valuable asset. She's part of what made the Avengers franchise yet. And, you know, if you're one of those people that thinks that I'm not so sure that Scarlett Johansson is, you know, really worth it compared to Thor, Captain America, and all that stuff, part of her character, and to me, part of what's so cool about her character is that she is a human and she's not a superhero. To me, that makes it interesting. I'd say that I like her a little better than Hawkeye, but I still think Hawkeye is cool too. I think it's just really awesome that he's just this dead shot with a bow and arrow, and he's a quick shot too. And I don't know, between the two of them, I don't mind them being the human factors in addition to all the other people that have powers. That was just my opinion. I think a lot of people agree with me, but I think that's one of the reasons I think the movie Black Widow wasn't bad. I think it was not misrepresented. I think it was misunderstood because it was more of a spy thriller. It was based on a human character. So I do think that they went the right route with the Black Widow movie. But as far as the lawsuit's concerned, I'm going to read y'all something here right now, just real quick, just to kind of give you the details. So the whole thing is that they filed a motion to force Scarlett Johansson into a private arbitration to address whether she's owed millions from the hybrid release of Black Widow. So the motion says, with the attorney Daniel Petrocelli, which I showed a picture of him a while back, that was that guy that had that mean mug. He argues that Disney lived up to its obligation to give a film a worldwide theatrical release, but nothing in the contract says that it had to be exclusive to theaters. I think you know what's going to happen if you get people to watch the option to watch it at home, especially if you got, like I said, 5, 6, 7 people paying $30 to watch it. That's nothing. You know, that's chump change compared to what you're going to pay $10 to $15 a ticket going in. So I think that there's actually something there that she has to fight. Johansson, she filed that lawsuit on the 29th of July. She said the decision to simultaneously release Black Widow in theaters and on Disney Plus cannibalized the film's box office revenue, and it cost her tens of millions of dollars. I agree. I think that that's right, because it only made $80 million. starting off that weekend. And that's not good for a Marvel film. And it's for during the pandemic. It's the kind of the one of the better ones so far, but it took a 67% decline that next weekend. And I don't think that it being it was a non-superhero movie, let's face it. I don't think it being, a human Marvel movie helped it in any way, for sure. I didn't expect it to make $1 billion. I don't think anybody expected the Black Widow movie to do the equivalent of Endgame, but I do think that they needed to make more and expected to make more and would have if it would have been solely released to theaters. And one example of that right now is Free Guy. We'll get to that in a second, because the cover of my thumbnail that I put on there was one of the things about that being the year's first hit. And so far it is. So, but we'll get to that in a second, because I got that segueing into some other things I want to talk about. But as far as Black Widow being able to make the money that it should have made, it could have made money in the theaters if it would have solely been released to theaters. I think it was, I honestly don't know what Disney was thinking. Like, I've tried to put myself in their shoes and be like, what did you think you really would achieve by doing it? Because you released it at a point to where people were going to the theater. And the fact that you did 60 million on Disney Plus with it just tells me that you could have made, that you would have made 60 more million in the theaters, but in a way different way. Or you would have had all those people going to the theaters, but it would have been at least twice that, because I guarantee you, everybody had ordered it on Disney Plus. It was not just one person watching it. You had at least 2 people at a time watching it. I know you did. That's the way I watched Suicide Squad on HBO with my cousin. I saw that in the theater first, but when I watched it the second time, I watched it with my cousin on HBO Max. Everybody's going to do that. As Maniac writes in, do you think Lucy and Ghost in the Shell affects, like, are you saying, does it affect Black Widow? Like her doing those movies, did it affect Black Widow? I don't think so, because Black Widow's got Marvel attached to it. I think that the pandemic on top, mainly the Disney Plus release, the Disney Plus premiere release, on top of the pandemic and the Delta 8 brewing in the moment, I think that's what hurt it. I don't think that Ghost in the Shell or Lucy. One, Ghost in the Shell, it's not awesome, but it's very cool to watch visually. It really is cool to watch visually. You can put that movie on. It put on like your favorite like tech noir soundtrack, or your favorite, I don't know, just whatever vaporwave style of electronic music, and enjoy just watching that movie. Lucy was really badass in my opinion. I thought Lucy was great. I enjoyed every aspect of that. I thought it was a good movie all the way through, and she was badass in it. I just liked it. He also asked if she can carry a movie on her own. I think she can. I enjoyed her in Black Widow. I like ScarJo though. Doesn't hurt that she's in my top 3. And that's not me being like, I have a list or anything, but she's just my top 3 favorite actresses in Hollywood right now, and has been for a long time. But I don't think that I don't think that Lucy and Ghost in the Shell affected it. And I do think that she can carry a movie on her own personally. But like I said, I don't think they expected to make $1 billion with Black Widow in the theaters. They didn't expect to make that before the pandemic, but I do think that they were expecting at least a 500 to 600 million. That's my point. As Maniac says, he liked her too, but that's not the point. Well, I think a lot of people like her though. She gets praised a lot. I think a lot of people are on her side for this Disney lawsuit. But anyways, I'm actually talking about this way longer than I had planned to. I just kind of wanted to cover that. That's still in the news. That's still going on. But it's some positive Marvel stuff, some kind of cool upbeats Marvel stuff. It's just been released that Black Panther 2 will release its first appearance of Ironheart, which if you don't know who Ironheart is, a lot of you might not. If you see this picture that I'm watching right here, or that I've got up right here, she's sort of the person that follows on the Iron Man legacy. And a lot of people were hoping that it was going to be the daughter. A lot of people were hoping that it was going to, carry on her. Because remember, you see her in the beginning of Endgame when Tony comes and gets her out of the tent. And he's like, don't let your mother see you with that on. That would be really cool if they did that. But the truth of the matter is that it's going to be played by Dominique Thorne. And that's who it is in the comics. She plays a girl named Riri Williams, which is, I always thought that was an interesting name. Riri. Dated a girl named Teresa, and people called her Riri. But so as Maniac's saying meh in the comments, are you saying that you're kind of meh on that coming out? So here's what's going on. Let me actually back up a little bit, and I don't want to get too stuck on just one thing. But so it's just come out that Dominique Thorne, who will star as a superhero Ironheart, and she will have her own Disney Plus series, mind you. She definitely is getting her own Disney Plus series coming out with her carrying on the suit and all that stuff. And she's actually she turns Stark's technology. What she does is she takes Stark's technology from the comics. Like in the comics, she takes his technology and basically advances it and does more than he ever did with it. And it becomes a cool character in the comics. And it was introduced to do more diversity into Marvel and stuff like that. That's why a lot of characters have been put in place. But these characters turn out to be really good characters, and I like them a lot. I do think that this is going to be cool. It just depends on how they do it on Disney Plus. I think her introduction into the Black Panther movie will be great. I think that'll be fine. I don't think that there's going to be anything wrong with that because Ryan Coogler's doing that movie, and he's just a great director. He was awesome, and he did a great job with Black Panther. He did an even better job with Creed. And now that he's got some stuff under his belt, he's been brewing and writing. I really do feel like he's going to do a great job with this whole script and this whole movie. Now, of course, with Chadwick Boseman passing away, RIP, of course, that changes things. They had to rewrite things because they had a whole plan. But she will be making her appearance as Ironheart in the Disney Plus series. And but she'll be first appearing in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and that's coming out next year. So I'm not sure how they're going to tie it in, but it does make sense to me why they would put it in that, because you already got Wakanda making Sam's suit, making the new Captain America suit for him. You know, they sent him the suit. They showed up in the show. So I can see how they could link their tech syncing up with Tony Stark's tech to make some badass tech. You know what I'm saying? And they're shooting Black Panther right now. And her character, Riri Williams, is in it. You will see her for the first time. So it's really unclear of how she's going to be introduced to everything like that. Not really sure. I just think it's cool that she is going to be introduced into Black Panther 2. And the fact that they're just moving forward super comic book style, man. They're not even trying to be. Remember back in the day when it was just like, no way, Captain America, that's not going to work. It's got to be cool. You know, X-Men came out. That was cool. Spider-Man barely made it out, but once it made it out, people grabbed onto it. I'm talking about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Obviously, once it came out, it was a massive hit. But studios were reluctant to do those things because of the whole tights. And now when you think about the way comic books start to go, I mean, think about it. Loki and all that, the multiverse, I mean, they're leading up to Secret War, it seems like, to me. Personally, that's what I think they're leading up to at some point. I think Secret Wars will be the next event like Endgame. That'll be their next huge major attempt at doing $1 billion theater going experience. So I just like that they're going the comic book route. Like, instead of trying to tame it too much down, saying, I just don't know if audiences are ready. Seems like they don't care anymore. They're just like, yes, let's get nerdy with it. So that makes me excited. Is Ironheart my favorite character of all time? No. She kind of came out a little after I was in the game. Like I said, I got out of avidly reading comics on the weekly about 15 years ago. Maybe that's a stretch. Maybe more like 13 years ago. But up until that point, I was reading comics. Every Wednesday, I'd go and get my comics. So I definitely know my stuff, and I still keep up with it as much as I can. I'll buy graphic novels and things like that. So I'm able to at least latch on to what's current. I don't know enough about these newer characters to have any sort of real attachment to them like I do, you know, the ones we've already seen on screen. So I'm just glad that they're reaching into more characters and following a lot of the true comic book stuff. Kudos to them for doing that. And well, since we're talking about Ironheart or Stark tech, things like that, Iron Man-ish things, they are bringing Iron Man back into the universe pretty quickly, but it's in the multiverse. Didn't mean to get your hopes up just by saying that right there. But we will be seeing a different variant of Tony Stark that's coming out in next coming weeks on an episode of What If. Now, I like What If so far. It's been pretty good. It's not like, oh my God, this is amazing. I will say the animation's great. It's definitely some of the best cartoon stuff I've seen. But with them being just 1 hour episodes, and that's it, you don't really have a whole lot of time to get all that invested in it. Like, I'm not sure that that's going to work as well as like horror movie anthology things work. Like the American Horror Stories, that works. You can wrap those stories, those little scares, those short story horror things up pretty quickly. The What If stuff, again, it's not bad by any means. It's really fun. It's good. It's just not blowing me away. And I'm not catching myself waking up every Wednesday being like, ooh, what if? Like, I actually have to remind myself that it came out. With Loki, Falcon Winter Soldier, and especially WandaVision, as soon as I woke up on Wednesday, I was watching those. Excuse me. So, all right. So, as Maniac says, it feels like they're scraping barrel. You mean that on the Ironheart stuff? Because Ironheart's a pretty popular character in the comics. Like I said, I think that they're just following the comics, man. I don't think they're scraping barrel. If anything, they have way more characters that I'm surprised they haven't even put in yet. Like a lot of good characters that they still have to shine. Like Moon Knight's coming out. I really think that they're including Ironheart and Miss Marvel, Shang-Chi. Well, Shang-Chi's a good character too. And not saying the other ones aren't good characters. I just think they're trying to get more international characters involved and more female presence involved. I really do feel that's what they're trying to do as a business and as a good business, a business that wants to thrive and be good in the future and be a step ahead and be on the right side of history and all that stuff. And just include human beings as in general, as a whole. I think they're making the right moves by making these steps, by doing Ironheart and doing Miss Marvel and all that. Because one, you're allowing a bigger demographic to get involved into the MCU. Because from what I understand, Miss Marvel is going to be completely like almost like that, like Seventh Heaven, kind of like it's supposed to be like almost a drama-ish, lighthearted family show that is about a family that has this daughter who's a superhero or has superpowers. But I mean, it from what I understand, it's going to really, really focus on the dynamic of the family. You're not going to really get involved too much into like Shield and things like that. I'm sure it will be somehow, but it's not going to be like really, it's just not going to feel like MCU Marvel all over the place. It's going to be much more grounded into her family. So I think it's just allowing more options for things to get involved. And I agree with you as Maniac right here. He's saying characters like that most people never heard of, Disney Plus is the best place for them. But with you saying that, what's interesting is that her introduction is actually going to be in Black Panther 2. So I'm just curious. I think that they're wanting to give her a good origin, because here's one thing that I feel like that they may have learned from WandaVision that may not have worked the best. And this is just my opinion. But Monica Rambeau's powers, the way she got started and everything like that, I would have preferred to see her origin in a movie rather than see a hero that's supposed to be pretty important going forward developed in the show. Like, I'd rather see her character developed, her powers developed in a movie, and then her be on a show and use those powers in the show. But the way they did it that way, I think, was a mistake. I think them doing it this way with Ironheart, with Dominic Thorne showing up in Black Panther 2, having an origin that's more in the serious approach of the film, the ones that most people see. More people see the films than they see the shows. Having that happen, I think, will bode better for her character and for the show, rather than do it the other way like they did Monica Rambeau with starting her powers on the show and then she's going to move forward. I just think that you'll care about the character better that way. So I think that's the right move on their part. And I'm going to watch everything that comes out on Disney Plus that's Marvel. And I'm going to watch every movie that comes out that's Marvel. This is one thing that as Maniac and I slightly disagree on every now and then, which, by the way, let me mention something real quick. Let me take a pause since I'm talking about as Maniac. We're going to start doing this thing. I think I've decided I'm going to call it Trilogies and Beyond, but it's just going to be a discussion that me and him do, or him and I, whatever the proper grammar is there. But literally, we're just going to talk about franchises from the start to the finish. We're going to dissect them, what we like, what we don't like about it, try to mention some specific things. And you guys, when we're doing this, we're going to probably do it live. So, if anybody's watching, feel free to chime in on that as well and tell us what you think about the franchise we're talking about at that time. Give us some questions that might not be covered about the franchise, any of that stuff. So tune into that. That's cool. We're actually probably going to be doing one tonight on Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi trilogy, 1 through 3. So check into that. This isn't the thumbnail for that, but just check into the trilogies and beyond tonight. I'm not sure exactly what time we're doing it, but we will be doing it. Anyways, I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, as far as them being on Disney Plus, I think you're right. But, as Maniac feels like that it's sort of wearing itself out now. And I can see that. And what I was saying, and I've said this to him on our off time, for me, for us nerds and us fanboys, I don't think we're ever going to get worn out with any sort of comic book material that's coming to screen. Now, obviously, it's something like Bloodshot that came up the screen. I'm not going to watch that. I still haven't seen Bloodshot. I don't care to. It just doesn't interest me. There's certain comic book movies that didn't have enough popularity in general to go to the screen. But if it's Marvel or DC, usually you could probably turn it into something, because most of the time those characters didn't make it to the pages unless there was really something worth them doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can go so far as the Suicide Squad with Polka Dot Man. Never thought I was going to see that guy on screen. Never. I would have bet you money we'll never see Polka Dot Man on screen. Maybe even make a joke about it. Well, we saw him on screen. King Shark was on screen. So we can see any of those guys. It just depends on the way you bring it to the screen and how it would work. Everything doesn't translate directly, but I'm getting off track. What I'm saying is for us fanboys, we're going to love that. I can see the casuals not necessarily, hanging on. Endgame, I think, was sort of like a pinnacle moment for a lot of people that were casual moviegoers, people that didn't read the comics, but they're like, you know what, this MCU thing is turning out to be pretty cool. I think Endgame was sort of the all right, well, that was a good ride in a lot of people's heads. Obviously, it's not in my head, and if you're watching this channel, it's probably not in the way you're in your head either. You probably want to see more, just like I do. But there are a lot of people that are just like, that was a cool ride. And there is a trend with everything. I don't care how much you love it. Things are trendy. Things go in and out. I love vampires and I love zombies, but I got sick of both of them after those trends were going. So, and I don't hate them either right now. I was just done with it for a while. Things like Batman. I've said this for a while. You can see I love Batman. I got Batman stuff just kind of littered everywhere. But, I would have been okay with them taking a break before this Robert Pattinson vibe going on. Now, I'm excited about it. Of course I am, because it looks awesome. But I want them to leave it alone, like Star Wars. I'm glad they're not doing a movie every year now. I'm glad that they realized, hey, let's take a break on the solo films that are just like their own things. Let's stick to sagas, and then we'll do TV shows on Disney Plus. That's great. Stick to that formula, because make us wait for a Star Wars movie to where we're really pumped up about it. I wouldn't be mad at Marvel if they slowed down. I don't want them to stop at all. But I don't know. I do think with anything, as much as you love it, it's going to lose its oomph if you're just wearing it out. And I don't mean wearing it out like you're making bad stuff. I mean, if you're just making it all the time, that anticipation, it loses it. Look, as fun as it is going on a roller coaster, if you walk straight into the roller coaster, it's fun. But part of it is that anticipation and waiting in the line. And, you got an hour, so you're like, then you get to the 45 minutes, it's starting to approach. But boy, once you're 10 minutes, 5 minutes away, and you're just starting to get closer and closer, that anticipation's really building it up. And that kind of makes the ride more fun. And that's what I want to happen with the Star Wars they're doing. With the MCU, I would be okay if they slowed down. And like I said, with Batman, it's just like they're wanting to do these movies all the time because they want to make money off these characters that are hot. But in my opinion, a character like Batman in Star Wars, look, you don't have to worry about people forgetting them. It's not one of those things. It's like, oh man, if we don't make a Paranormal Activity movie in a while, people might just sort of like die out on that franchise or whatever. Star Wars and Batman and Superman ain't like that. If anything, you need to give it the break. So I'm not going to continue on with that much more. I just had to kind of say that right there. But moving on, no more Marvel talk. We talked about enough Marvel there for a second. On to the next topic. This is a little small one. The Dune director, Denis Villeneuve, excuse me, I said that wrong. He's just now recently come out and said that he's got a trilogy planned. I don't know what you think about that. And for Dune, excuse me, I meant to say that, a trilogy plan for Dune, because he's directing Dune coming out. Now, Dune was set to be a duology from what they said from the get-go, and they just said that even a few days ago. Well, he's coming out that he's saying that I see actually a trilogy with it, but no further than that. I don't know how I feel about this. Now, I loved Blade Runner 2049. If you look at this picture, you see that in the background because he's the guy who did that. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Prisoners, but he did that one. That was a fantastic movie. But I don't know if just because you can make a trilogy doesn't mean that you should. Like if you envisioned it in 2 parts, like make it in 2 parts. Because The Hobbit should have never been made into 3 films. And I'm sure that a lot of people agree with me. Lord of the Rings, definitely 3 films there. They needed that. The Hobbit, I could see it in 2 films. You know, I've said this before, like the ending of The Hobbit is when they actually meet up to Smaug. And then like, it's like, oh shit, you see Smaug right there and he's about to bust in. And then it's a cliffhanger and you're about to go see the second half. That would have been great. Chapter 1 and 2, that worked well. And they even made chapter 2 too long. Still was good, but they just made it too long. So if he's making a Dune movie because he thinks it's supposed to work in 3, then that's good. But they've already figured it out how to do it in 2 movies. That's just what I'm saying. So I just don't want them to do it because they think they just need to make 3 films to make it a trilogy. And sometimes I think it's kind of cool when you just have 2 movies, but they've even already said they're going to do another It movie too. That's not based on anything that Stephen King wrote. So who knows what we're going to get there. I mean, if we get like a Pennywise slasher, that'd be dope. Like a slasher movie that's just straight up Pennywise, just killing a bunch of kids all over the place. That'd be cool. I'd like that. Don't even pay attention to the characters. It's a Pennywise movie. Maybe they'll call it Pennywise. That'd be cool. But Dune, I'm not sure if there's enough. I mean, there's enough to make more stuff off of because there's a whole lore out of it and everything like that. I just don't want them to stretch this story that's the famous one that everybody knows, the novel, the movie that was made back in the late 70s by David Lynch that had Sting in it and all that stuff. Or maybe it was the early 80s. Maybe the date's wrong on that. But point I'm trying to make is that we know that movie is what they're remaking, and they had already scheduled it and ironed it out for 2 parts. So anyways, I just hope that Denis Villeneuve is not saying that he's going to just make 3 movies to make a trilogy, or that's not why he's doing it. Because if it's just going to be 2 and that's what they planned out, that's what I want. But he's a great director. He visually is great. Say what you will about some of his movies. Oh, The Arrival is another one of his with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. That's a great movie. It's got a very interesting tone, somber, but interesting, intriguing. I liked it. But if you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about his visual style. He's very elegant. He loves using the big wide shots. And that's why he's a big, big advocate of that movie coming straight to the theater and not going to HBO Max, which I think it's coming to both. Again, on a movie like that, you need that money from the theaters. As Maniac says, the original is awful. Oh yeah, it is. No question. It's terrible. And David Lynch, I don't know if this is a little old school Dune trivia, but David Lynch doesn't even like talking about that movie because he said there was so much studio meddling that it's the worst experience he's ever had on his life. And he doesn't even like to remember that a part of his filmmaking career because that's how bad it was. And it shows in the movie. It didn't, I mean, again, it's one of those ones that's the type of movie you show like at a bar when they're showing like old school movies and you have the sound off and everybody's drinking and there's 80s music playing and shit like that. But that movie's just on in the background because it's like, what is this? But then when you watch it, you're like, what is this? You know what I mean? So anyways, I just hope that he's not making 3 movies just to do it. That's my worry because I do want to see this. I do think this is going to be great. And they've already said that Zendaya is going to be the lead character in the second one. I think they're all still going to be in it, but she's going to be more the focus. So I don't want you to ruin something that's going to be good. Moving on, though, and a little bit of a DC talk. I don't know if you guys liked Birds of Prey at all. I didn't. It's definitely my least favorite DCEU film. But Black Canary was one of the girls that was in that movie. And she's got her own movie coming out. She was played by Journey Smollett. I think that's how you say it. Now, she was probably one of the, believe it or not, and I never even knew who this character, I know the character of Black Canary. I never knew who this actor was. She was probably one of the better parts of Birds of Prey, her and Ewan McGregor. Hers is the acting that actually didn't bug me too much. The problem with this is that it's coming straight to HBO Max. Look, I said this before and I'll say it again. It's like they're making all these movies straight to HBO Max that are nothing but DC movies, pretty much. It sounds like these straight to HBO Max movies. It's like, why don't you just call it DC Max movies or something? Because you're using this as an outlet. And my worry that these movies are going to gradually, you might have the first two be like, that's pretty good quality. You know, that's not bad, but you know, they're going to spend less money on it because it's not a theatrical release. And I feel like it's just going to gradually turn into the CW Max. You know, I feel like you might have some quality in the beginning and just slowly but surely it's just going to jump down. And like I said, it's going to turn into the CW Max. Now, I like her. I think she's good. Like I said, she was one of the better parts of the story or the movie that I actually thought was okay. It was tolerable. So I think with some good direction and good writing, she probably could do good. I'm just worried about the quality of it coming straight to HBO Max. Like I said, I'm worried that by the end of it, it's going to be called the CW Max. And I'm sure that a lot of you guys like some of the CW stuff out there. But like I said, Smallville was cool when Smallville was out originally because it was the only thing of its kind. Nothing like that had ever existed before. It had a charm to it that worked. And if you were young at the time, you could relate to some of it too. It had like the hip soundtrack at the time. But then when they started making every show after that, just a template of Smallville, it had that teeny bopper film. It was basically every show was just Dawson's Creek with a superhero background. It all started sucking. I think The Flash is terrible. I thought the first few seasons of Arrow was all right, but all the things that started connecting to it, I'm sorry, I just don't. That time's over with to make those type of shows. I mean, I bet Asmaniac agrees with me that the time for that Smallville quality is past. There was a time for it, and it worked when it had its time. But even by the time Smallville was getting into the 10th season, it was like, all right, let's wrap this up. Let's wrap that gavel up, B. So I'm just worried that we're going to get that with this Black Canary film. We got the Batgirl movie that's coming straight there. We got a Green Lantern Corps movie that's coming straight there. We got the Peacemaker series coming straight there. I mean, excuse me, the Green Lantern Corps, it's not a Green Lantern movie. It's the Green Lantern Corps series. And apparently they're still making a Green Lantern movie. But I just don't want it. I don't want that. It's just like talking about that saturation thing. And look, can Disney or can WB and Warner Brothers just stop following and copying Disney? All they do is copy Disney. They're just trying, they're consistently trying to be the MCU. Like, guys, take a page out of your own book and look at Joker. Start doing movies that don't necessarily have to connect. And you're probably going to make some good shit. I mean, Suicide Squad was great. Yes, it does connect, but very loosely. Aquaman, I enjoyed that one. And of course it connected, but very loosely. They very barely even talked about it. I just feel like that all this connection with the HBO stuff and everything, you're just trying to do what MCU is doing, and you ain't going to succeed. You're going to fail again, just like you have been. Do your own thing. Make your own movies. You used to be the king. Superman and Batman, Superman 78, or I think it was 78, and Batman 89, those were the templates. It's like, let's follow these guys. And now you can't even figure out what you're doing. But it goes back to me saying that it's because the studio is ran by business execs, not fans. Marvel Studios consist of fans that are also in that line of work. But I mean, it's all based out of fans. So that is the main difference. And we'll see. I'd love to be pleasantly wrong. Because I'd be, oh, you guys are actually doing this good. Awesome. That'd give me more stuff to watch that I want to watch. But I just would be lying if I said I'm excited about all this stuff coming to HBO Max, the DC stuff. I still want to see HBO shows. All their shows are awesome. It's like, Eastbound and Down, of course, like Sopranos, things like that. All those different things. I just watched White Lotus. That was great. But I just don't think you have a grip on the DC stuff. Sorry. Hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. Yeah. As Maniac says, he saw the finale of Superman and Lois. I agree. It's not great, but I will say this, at least they're trying to do something different from the teeny bopper with that show. But even then, I think it shows that, one, they don't have the grip on it. And I'm not sure that anybody really cares about the story of Superman and Lois and the kids, because that's not a really big thing in the comics. This is more written for the show. I mean, there are some what if things. There are some things that happen. There are a ton of things that happen in the comics. I mean, hell, at one point, Superman gets turned into the electric Superman, and there's like a negative one and a positive one. No kidding. Superman used to be like in the 90s for a second, he was a jolt of energy. That's what Superman was. Have to find a picture of that and show it to you guys sometimes. But anyways, I just want him to do it right. And the finale of the Superman and Lois, I mean, at least it was an attempt to make something better. But I personally still feel like they just don't have the grip on it. They just don't understand what we're wanting. They don't understand what the fans truly want to see. They think they know, but they don't. Whereas Marvel knows, in my opinion. I'm sure there's some Marvel haters out there too that are just full on DCEU, and that's your total right. Just think ain't my feelings on the issue. All right, moving on. So now we're going to get into sort of, I don't want to say the main topic, but kind of the stuff that's all going to really connect together. And this is something to do with the theaters and all that. So we finally have the first official hit of the year. Free Guy's doing it. Free Guy is a hit. And so far, it's the only one. And I'm hoping that Shang-Chi beats it. I'm hoping that Shang-Chi beats it out because of the Marvel presence there. But this just goes to show you right there. Disney, look at you. You have a character like Black Widow, which everybody knows, and it doesn't perform well. And you wonder why. You don't release this one, Free Guy, in the theaters, and it's starting to perform really well. So thus far, this Friday and Saturday through Sunday, so this last weekend, which was the second weekend, it made another 18.8 million, and it made 28 the first weekend. So as of right now, Free Guy is actually cleaning up. It's actually done 58.8 million in North America and 111.9 million worldwide. None of that is Disney Plus. All that's theatrical. So look, that's got to be making ScarJo even more pissed. I mean, she's got to be, look, she's like, are you kidding me? I'm ready to beat your ass. That's what she's thinking right now, because the proof's in the pudding right there. Stop releasing them on Disney Premiere Plus. And if you're going to do that, I'm sorry. I know this sounds crazy, but you think about it and break it down. If you're going to release it on Disney Premiere Plus, you have to do it for like $75. That's the only way you can make any money, because I guarantee you a family of 5 and 6 will still pay that. It'll happen. And if the people that really want to see the film, which they do want to see it, they will go to the theater. You've got the proof right here. They're going to do it for Free Guy. They're going to do it for a Marvel film, in my opinion. Now, Free Guy, it was good. I saw it, but I wasn't blown away. I enjoyed Black Widow more. This was cool. Ryan Reynolds is great in it. But if you've seen Ryan Reynolds before, you know what you're going to get in this movie. He's cracking jokes the whole time. He's super witty. There is some heart to it. I'm not going to take that away from it. There is. But he really is just cracking it up the whole time. He's just having a blast doing Ryan Reynolds. He's playing a clean version of Deadpool. Or a clean version of a Van Wilder. How about that? I'm not taking away from the movie at all. And I'm not dogging on the movie. What I'm saying is, I feel like Marvel could have done that if they just would have gone straight to the studios. Straight to the theaters. So this is what's really bad, is that now you have movies like like Paw Patrol beating out Hugh Jackman's Reminiscence, which I saw that recently on HBO Max, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I told my buddy Asmaniac this. It would have been better as a show, kind of like the way I feel about Tomorrow War. It would have been better as a show, like a 10 episode show, to where all these different things that start happening in this movie sort of have their own episode to take place. This movie, they kept throwing all these angles at you, and it was like sort of like this detective mystery in a weird way. And then you'd find out somebody else is doing something, and then you find out somebody else is doing that because of this person doing this, and then that caused this. And then you start reeling backwards and finding out, oh, but then this person was doing this before. And that's great. I like that kind of stuff, but they crammed too much of it in one movie. And I just was kind of underwhelmed by it. Now, I know that I will enjoy Reminiscence. I know that movie is a better movie than this movie for me. I'm not going to watch Paw Patrol 2. Or maybe it's Paw Patrol 1, whatever. I'm not going to watch. Yeah, it's Paw Patrol, the movie. I'm not going to watch that. And I know the type of movie that is. It's designed to be for kids and everything like that. But it cleaned up at the box office. And you know why? You know why? Because it was at the theaters. It wasn't on HBO or anything like that. Reminiscence was on HBO Max. That's how I watched it. It was good and it was cool. I probably wouldn't have gone to the theater to see this one, but I bet you that it had to have made more money. Excuse me. It had to have had a chance to make more money in the theaters because it only did 2 million. I mean, that's really bad on opening weekend for a movie like this. I mean, we're talking Rebecca Ferguson, Hugh Jackman, Thandie Newton, which Thandie Newton was great in it. And Rebecca Ferguson, she wasn't in it a ton, but I really like her as an actor. And Hugh Jackman was great in it. The premise was cool enough. It had some cool things in there. It just was too much for a movie. It should have been a TV show. And there also were some things in it that didn't need to be there. There's this whole like flooded city, post-apocalyptic, futuristic feel. I'm not going to get into it. It just didn't need to be in it. There were certain things I thought they weren't logically sound. But for 2 million, making that the opening weekend for a movie of that budget and everything, that is not good. I mean, in fact, it's marking the worst start in history for a nationwide release. And that's including everything during the pandemic right now. So poor Hugh Jackman, because I do feel like he deserves a little better than that. I would have liked him to do better, but the movie it didn't have what it needed to be all that great. And it really wasn't marketed all that well, in my opinion. But when Paw Patrol's beating that out and it has strictly a theatrical release and Reminiscence is an HBO Max release, at least Premiere Plus, they had to pay $30 for it. This is just on your subscribe service you're already subscribing to if you have HBO Max. So there's no extra stuff on this. Same thing with Suicide Squad. Both of these movies were bomb. Suicide Squad was a bomb, even though it made more than $2 million. It was still a bomb. And I feel like if Free Guy's making more than Suicide Squad, then your proof is starting to be right there in the pudding. You got to stick to the theaters. And I know things are bad with the world, with the Delta and all that, and the C word and all that, but you still just got to keep that industry intact for what it's supposed to be and not start to branch it off. And I know we're in a renaissance time. And I just don't know any other way that you can survive if you just keep doing this, because you're just going to be losing money on all these movies that you made, and you're not going to continue to be able to make these movies, and people are going to be mad. I know I am. I don't want just straight to DVD style quality. But see, as Maniac says, HBO Max feels like PS Plus when they give you free games. Some of the PS Plus games are not bad, but yeah, some of the games are like, what is this? Who cares? I don't want this. But if they continue to do this with movies, and I know that HBO Max is going to be there, they're going to be doing that to the end of the year. That's what they promised everybody they were doing, then they have to keep to their promise. But then they're not going to do it again. They've already said that. But I hope Disney doesn't do any more premiere releases. Like, they need to keep it to the theaters. And look, if they get so bad to where people can't go to the theaters, I'm honestly okay with them pushing the movies back. I don't mind that. I don't want movies like No Way Home to not make money. And obviously that's not going to change what people think about it, because people will see the movie. That's the thing. It's just the way they see it. You got to make it to where they have to spend money on it. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I really don't. But I do think keeping it in theaters is the first option. It's the first line of defense, at least. Eternals too, man. I mean, God, I'm really excited about Eternals. And if it has to get pushed back another year, so be it. But even then, if you push them back really far, I feel like, but nah, you know what? Even then, if it's too far, people are going to start forgetting about him. You've already done all this marketing on it. So it is a slippery slope and it's a tricky situation. But I just feel like with Free Guy making this money and showing everybody up, you got to just keep it in the theaters. That's your proof. That's your gold standard right now. Look at Free Guy. And every time you're trying to ask yourself, well, should we release it somehow? Just like, no, look at Free Guy. Look at Free Guy. And I think the answer is right there. And on top of that, this is another one that's just showing you that we got somebody else just they can't decide to just leave it in the theaters. So this one, Addams Family 2, which I didn't like this movie at all. I didn't care for it. I thought it was boring, to be honest. But they release now, they're going to debut it theatrically and for rental on the same day. I don't see any parents taking their kids to the theater to see this if they can just rent it on the same day. Now, how they're going to rent it, if it's going to be strictly per rental and you only have it for 24 hours or however long you watch it and you have to pay $7.99 for it, all right, that's good. Now you're kind of talking a little better because you don't have the option. I feel like for the Premiere Plus one, you have like a few days to watch it once you buy it. You have like a window to watch. You don't own it, but for the $30, you do have like a decent amount of a window to watch it. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but I just think this is another thing that's like, well, you guys are not going to make any money off of this at all. People are going to just rent it. But another sign of Hollywood just in trouble right now. I don't know what they're going to do. Like I said, I don't have the answers, but I just wanted to get back to normal. And obviously I want the world to get back to normal too. I'm not sitting here trying to just being like, oh, whoa, my movies. Of course, these are first world problems, but hey, that's what this show and that's what this channel is all about, is movies. So that's what I'm going to always rant and complain or celebrate. It's all about movie stuff. Well, guys, I don't have a ton more for you today. I'm going to cut it just a little bit short than usual. But again, if you hadn't done so already, check out my channel. Check out some of my things. I just got that Don't Breathe 2 review out. Like I said, you can see what I think about that sequel. Did I like it? Did I not? I don't know. Check it out. And also you can check out our Terminator 2 discussion that Esmaniac and I did the other day. And tonight we're doing the Spider-Man 1 through 3 trilogy, the Sam Raimi trilogy. And we're just going to discuss that whole thing right there. And if you weren't able to come into the show, you weren't able to tune in or anything like that, and you had something you wanted to talk about, tune into or send into BrassReelBobby@gmail.com. Send me anything that you feel like discussing, anything you think I should get to. If I was wrong about something, correct me, anything like that. But I do want to get involved with the community and everything more, guys. So please send that in. And hope y'all have a good rest of the day. I'll see y'all tomorrow, and we'll have some more shit to talk about. Peace.